let's start that. And do that again. There you go.
Okay. All right, I call to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll do a moment of silence for health and safety workers, police, and firemen. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Mark will be recording this. I'm going to take a look at the tracking log. The only thing we have on there, Mark, if I'm not mistaken, is 198 Oneida Lane.
Yes, that's the variance application.
Okay. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Hearing none. We're going to move to the minutes of January 6th. Any comments on the January 6th meeting minutes?
I did. Just line 51 on page 1. That in quotations tracked should with a T instead of a K. Instead of tracked.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, meeting minutes approved. All right, first on the first is the conditional uses of variances. We have 198 Oneida Lane. Mr. Holden, are you going to present?
Yes, I will.
Okay, if you could just go through this briefly. I think everyone's had a chance to review it, so I'll give you the floor.
Great. So Mark, are you going to share the slides?
1 second. Is it up now?
Yes, I see it. Does everybody else see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so my name's Carl Holden. I live at 198 Oneida Lane with my wife, Beth. And I'm basically here requesting a variance from section 240.32P regarding storage sheds and accessory buildings. What you see on the slide here on the left is basically our property with the star in the center with a 1,000-foot radius. So you can kind of see the context of where our property is related to everyone that would be impacted by this. And then you can see in the blow up on the right there where we'd like to construct the proposed accessory structure. So basically the variance is 240.32P allows up to the lot's greater than 1 acre, and you can have up to 2 storage sheds, either 2 at 120 square feet maximum, or 1 at 240 square feet maximum. And you can also have a maximum building height of 12 feet to the highest point of the ridge. So Mark, if you jump to the next slide. So this is the site plan from 1995 when we built the house. And I give you this as a context for the yard setbacks. When we purchased the property from actually 200 Oneida Lane, they had already subdivided it off. And the property had a right-of-way that extended through to what is now Sorrel Hill. So when Sorrel Hill was built, that right-of-way was extinguished. But when we built the house, we had a 100-foot setback, front yard setback, 50-foot rear yard setback, and then 2 side yard setbacks at 20 feet. And like I said, and then when the right-of-way was extinguished, it actually increased our lot area to 1.18 acres, which makes us over an acre of property. So if you go to the next slide. There you go. So this is the current site plan now with our property being 198 Oneida Lane, and then the adjacent property is 200 Oneida Lane. That's the Manning's property. If you blow in there exactly. So you can see there's an existing wood shed in the upper left-hand corner, which is 55 square feet. That's actually a wood frame construction. It's actually built up on posts, and it's just for, protecting lumber from the elements. What we would like to do is build a 182 square foot shed, which you can see there on the left-hand side. And they're also going to put a patio out there. And really the goal is we're trying to create kind of an outdoor room in the backyard. So basically that shed at 180 or 182 square feet, I'm sorry, it's 160 square feet. And then the 55 square foot shed, that totals, I'm sorry, yeah, we are concerned 182 square feet. We actually went back and forth. So that totals 237 square feet, which is less than the 240 square feet, which would be allowed if you had just one storage shed. If you go to the next slide. So the reason for wanting the 15-foot roof height is I'm showing you elevations of the existing house. So my wife and I are actually both architects. We designed the house back in 1996 and built it. And we have a 12-12 roof pitch on all the elevations, which is kind of a 45-degree angle. So we just want to maintain the aesthetics of the house and build the shed, which you can see to the left in this elevation with the 12-12 pitch, which it should be 14 foot, 6.5 inches based on my drawing, but I'm asking for 15-foot variance just to give me a little leeway on the site. And then the west elevation below that, you can see the back of the house, which is the house, and then the garage, and then the new shed on the right. And there's some grading issues there that actually the grade is going to step up. So we'll actually wind up with about 13 feet on the side that actually is towards 200 Oneida Lane, which is our neighbors, the Mannings. And then the next slide is the south elevation, which is the view from the Manning property. So you can actually see the side elevation, the garage on the right, the house kind of behind the shed and the shed in front of that. And then the elevations at the bottom are just all 4 elevations of the shed structure. And then the next slide is actually views, you know, from different locations. So the upper left-hand corner is Oneida Lane. We're actually at the end of the cul-de-sac. So this is the view from the cul-de-sac looking at our property. We're kind of pretty much screened by trees. And this is a winter shot. The one to the right is that top right is actually the view from the Manning's front door at 200 Oneida Lane. The lower left-hand is a view of the project area. You can actually see the shed that's existing on the property, which is the wood frame construction on the left side. And then the bottom right, I actually walked all the way back to Rossmore and took a picture from Rossmore directly behind our property, so you could see the impact to them. And that's pretty much it. We do have letters from our neighbors, Ben and Shannon Manning and Ted and Barbara Ray, who live at they live at 201 Oneida Lane. They're kind of across the street from us on the property in support of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Appreciate it. Before I start questioning, I'm confused on your numbers. What's in front of me, it says that you're going to build a 160 square foot shed and an existing 55, which would be 215. You spoke of 180.
Yeah, I think that was, yeah, so the actual shed is going to be 11 foot 4 inches times 16 feet. So it's 182 feet.
I think I didn't capture the last minute change. It didn't get captured in my memo. But the 182 is what you're proposing, right, Mr. Holden?
Correct.
182 plus 55.
Yes, which is 237 square feet.
Okay. Mark, have you reviewed that change?
Yes. It was the last minute on the plans. Doesn't really affect the change in the relief. He's still needs relief to allow for 2 sheds.
Right, and the relief, 2 sheds is a total of 240, right?
No,
Yeah,
it's one shed for 240 and
2 sheds at 120 apiece.
yeah.
So he's asking for a variance of, I just want to get these numbers right, that's all.
Yeah. Nope, that's fine.
It's a variance of 62 square
Correct.
feet. Okay, And the height, you're just looking for 15 feet.
Correct.
Okay, I'll open up to the commission for questions. Let me just go down my list. Dan, you have any questions?
No, I don't. Honestly, my comment on it is you're tucked back in. It's not really affecting anybody here. Actually, I'm sorry, one question here for you. What was the use of the shed? Did you say outdoor space? I mean,
Well, so the shed is actually going to be for storage, for actually, lawnmower, with lawnmower, snowblower, lawnmower. What we're trying to do with the shed is kind of delineate kind of an outdoor room in the backyard. So the shed would be kind of one edge. We have the garage as an edge, and then we have the house as an edge, and then the woods. We're trying to kind of focus the view out the back and just get some screening.
but the shed is for storage. You're not using it for a room to have a craft room or whatever studio or anything out there. This is basically storage, and then your outdoor space, you're just framing your outdoor space with this structure.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, and other than that, and I have no issues with the application. So
Okay, Ed, questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I agree with Dan. This is setback.
Okay.
Yeah, the height is to match the roof line, so
Okay.
from the roof pitch.
Mark?
No, I agree. My only question was the use, and I think that's been clarified by the property holder.
Mike?
Thanks.
Mike, any questions? No,
No questions.
I have no questions. Anyone want to make a motion?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission support the dimensional variance requested to permit the proposed. So that should be, instead of 160, it should be 182. Is that right?
That's correct.
182 square foot storage with a height of 15 feet maximum as depicted in the application for the following reasons. The dimensional variance relief sought by the applicant will have no adverse effect on the essential character of the neighborhood. The relief sought is the minimal relief needed to construct a new storage shed so that it will match the architectural style of the existing dwelling.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let me do it this way. Any nays? I'm an aye. Okay, this is approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Holden, for your presentation, and appreciate the details you provide us, and good luck with your shed.
Great.
And that was Dan with the second from Ed.
You
Yes.
second that? Yes, I
Yeah,
believe
that
so.
was it. Sorry.
Got
Do it again.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is pipeline hazard mitigation, and we've been working on with the ordinance. I want to just open this up with some comments to start out. Planning Commission Mark has written us a letter. I just want to put we've been working on this for a while, so I just want to put a couple things in perspective. This is going to be an awareness ordinance. It's an awareness study, and also it's this consultation. I want to talk about that in our discussion. There's three things that will trigger this that I believe the way it's written. You have a land development option, planned residential development, and also a conditional use would trigger the request for this awareness and mitigation study. It'll be reviewed. It's got a couple features in there that's asking for a professional engineer to review it. The study will have to assess the potential impacts and measures that the applicant's going to take. The parts about it that I think that are important is it also allows for review by the township authorities to require changes if necessary, potential challenges, but I think there might be potential challenges to that. But I think the way we've got it worded, I think it's reasonable. It says you do this study, you present it to the commission, to us, and to the board, and we can make considerations on how we might want to change that and mitigating hazards, which I think is a good part of the things we're trying to accomplish. It's also We'll work within I think it's working within the confines of the ordinance we set out. I know Mark and his organization and Kristen has put a lot of work into this. We want to provide a product that was reasonable and workable, but also give us some control by the township and the township authorities to maintain the health and safety of the public of East Goshen. So we got to keep in perspective what our intention here was. Bottom line was we wanted to make an ordinance that would provide an awareness that there's a pipeline there, an awareness of the dangers, give the township boards and commissions and authorities to take a look at it and see if it works to what we feel is appropriate. We also have the option in there to bring in the services of the township, whether it be emergency management coordinator, fire marshal, fire chief, utility providers, et cetera. It's all in the ordinance. So the bottom line is make people aware that there's a pipeline there. We want to be known aware of the dangers. Is there any mitigation that might minimize those particular dangers? Give an opportunity for the township to take a look at it, to review it, provide comment, and make suggestions if we feel there was something better that they could do to mitigate any potential hazards, which I think that review is important. And with that, I'm going to ask Kristen. I know Kristen's here. Kristen, if you have any comments on it, then I'm going to open up to the board for comment. I'm sorry. Before I start that, Mark, was there anything else that I missed that you want to add?
No, that's good.
Okay. Kristen, any comments from you before I open it up to the commission?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really important for you to explain what the intent was. So I think we've accomplished the intent. If the board of supervisors has a different intent, then obviously, you're back and you're doing something different. But as far as making sure that anybody who's going to develop property that requires land development, planned residential development, or certain conditional uses that we specifically picked out as being, ones where we'd be concerned, obviously any use we're concerned about people's health, safety, welfare, but these were the ones that sort of jumped out as being, a lot of people would be involved, or people, residential would be living there. So that's how we got to the conditional use ones. But it's really to be used as another resource in the planning process, so that before something gets approved, you guys would take a stab at looking at the awareness study that they provided to, let you know what pipelines are nearby, within what proximity, what would be some of the hazards or dangers associated with those pipelines. And then based on that, are there plan changes that can be made at the early stages? Whether it's where you put the access driveways, where you put fire hydrants, how you face the orientation of the facades and the doors, things like that. The goal is not to stop the development. It's more just to make it a better development in light of the closeness and proximity of the pipeline. And using the tools that you have with the various professionals at the township, the people, the emergency management, the fire chief, planning commission, pipeline awareness group, whatever the various entities are that have the expertise and can add, no different than what you're doing now. If something comes in and you need a professional geologist to help you review something, if you need a wetlands expert, the MPC allows you to go out and seek those professionals and have the applicant pay for the cost of the reviews of those. So I view that as no different than how you would be reviewing a traffic impact study, and how, based on the results of that traffic impact study, you would suggest plan revisions and plan edits. So again, I think you did a good job, Ernie, of putting it into context as to what the intent is, and I think we've accomplished that intent.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that. All right, with that, I'm going to open it up to comments by the commission, and then I'll go to public comments. Dan, do you have any comments?
A couple comments here. Some minor ones here. Page 1, the applicability. Should the pipeline awareness study, should that be capitalized? I know it's capitalized elsewhere within the ordinance, so I was thinking that that should be capitalized.
Okay.
Page 2, the ordinance. We had at our last meeting, we had discussed whether or not we wanted a township park and a public utility facility located as part of the application there. I guess the township park would require then the township obviously to prepare this. Which probably should. I just didn't know if you would actually want to put the burden on yourself to do this, but my initial thought was I think it should probably stay. We did discuss the public utility facility, and ultimately here we had the one off of 352 that came in. So I don't know if what our decision was on that, but I did have that on my notes from last time. Whether
Yeah, I had that also. We had a township park and a public utility. I'm okay with them there. I didn't see a negative with it being there. My point wasn't sure we needed it, but I don't see a negative, so.
So I guess I would agree. Maybe also with that said, I'll ask this as a question for Kristen here, because this is in the saldo, so it could be waived if we felt necessary, but you have a section in here for an amendment. This ordinance was amending the zoning ordinance to make this a requirement here also. So your section 4 of this ordinance talked about amendment to this chapter 240 or section 240-31B7. So can this be waived, or is this going to be if some reason other an applicant needed it, they need a variance?
No, so for those uses where you need a conditional use, it is now a procedural requirement of your conditional use application to submit this study. So you'd have to ask for variance to not do that, but that's not your typical variance where you're asking for something because the physical characteristics of the property. So it's not likely you'd be granted a variance.
Okay. So I guess ultimately here then and I'm not sure, Kristen, you were aware of it, maybe Mark, was the facility that went in off of 352 there next to Hershey's Mill. They would have had to do this for a public utility facility.
It's not a principal use. So I don't know. I would have had to look at that, but it's
Okay.
principal uses of a property.
You're right.
In that instance, that's Hershey's Mill open space area. It's got a spray field. It's got a pipeline running through it, and Pico has utility substation there.
You're right.
A public utility facility. So probably not a principal use.
Okay. Well, maybe it doesn't matter here. It being an abundance of caution require that to do. So I'd be okay with it if it left to stay. The next page, which is I guess what, page 3, the contents, item number B1B. I know you've made the change here for the 660 feet of the proposed land development. Just want to kind of circle back to that one. You changed it earlier for the use of the tract within the tract. I guess I want to avoid an argument here saying that whether or not we want to have if it's a larger piece of ground and the land development is over on one side and that's farther than 660 feet away, do we still require this? So it just used tract sometimes and says proposed land development, and I just want to kind of make sure we pick and choose what language we should be doing there. So that one, and then the top of the next page was the same comment. You reference back to 660 feet of the proposed development. So I'm not sure if both of them should be changed to tract or not. Other than that, looking back from my notes last time, I think things are pretty well covered. I think this is great, and you guys did a great job, and I'm supportive of it to move forward.
So just a question on your comment with the 660 with the proposed development. I interpreted that to mean whatever the physical structure was. Maybe I'm interpreting that wrong. Mark, can you shed some light on that, or Kristen?
Yeah, I mean, development would bounce it back to where the actual development is, but then development can also be the grading and all that. So tract is probably a better, more defined term because we know where those boundaries are. I agree with Dan, but then again, you could have a huge tract, a huge parcel,
So Mark, an example would be whenever Mars came in. Mars isn't that all one piece of land all the way up
Yeah.
to Boot Road?
Yeah.
And that was, you have the pipeline running down the middle of the site. I would assume that 600, that's it, from the center line of the pipeline or from the easement area, that building was 660 feet away. So if you use tract, but the tract is not, the building and the development was 660 feet away, probably. So the question is, I mean, I think that would be, it's a prime example. Would we want these guys to prepare this study?
Well, that's the beautiful thing is you can waive it if it's a land development, but if it's a conditional use, then they have to do it, which
correct
would seem a little onerous because the Lavazza facility is probably it's probably 1,000 feet from the center line of the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. So I
think
think that's the fundamental question to ask, whether or not we would end up wanting that to happen. If that is the case, if we want it from the limit of the building or the limit of the parking lot or something else, then we should not be using the word tract. If we want it, I think that's just a fundamental question we need to decide.
And guys, I would encourage you that because you're looking for being able to evaluate if plan changes have to be made as a result of the proximity of the pipelines, I think if you do the track, that gives you more ability to suggest revisions to where things are located on the track, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're just saying if it's 660 feet from a building that requires land development, or a building within the PRD, or a building that requires a conditional use, that's gonna narrow it down, but it doesn't give you, maybe then that's the only place on the track that the building can go or something like that. I don't know. But I don't disagree with you, Dan, that if we keep the language the way we have it for applicability, but this language on page 3 should change to read a specific description of the hazardous liquid pipelines and natural gas transmission pipelines located within 660 feet of the track, which is proposed for land development, PRD, or conditional use.
Okay.
So that Mars site, the building is about 1,500 feet away from Boot Road, and the actual development of the edge where the parking lot is and such was about 1,000 feet away. So ultimately here, I think in the abundance of caution, I would agree that we would do from the tract, and that if we felt it was applicable through land development that they could get a waiver for it, then we could do that. But I think the report would be pretty easy for them to prepare and say that, hey, we've noted these items, but we're 1,000 feet away as our closest disturbance. So.
Okay, so if we go with tract, where do we have to make those changes? I know.
Yeah, Dan, what was the first one I got? B1B. What was the other one?
The B1B, and then the top of C, the top of the next page, which basically it's partway. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, the top of the page.
Line.
Right?
Yep, 6th line on the on C, and then I guess that was it. I believe.
I think that's it.
That was it. That's all I had.
All right.
Okay. I thought we had got all those, but I think with some rewording and stuff,
you had gotten the earlier ones. Those are those are the 2 that I noticed that were still there.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Ed, any comments?
I always have to follow Dan. No, this looks really good. I guess my one, I couldn't necessarily think of any examples here, so maybe someone can help me out, or maybe it's null here. But is there any potential where a resident would need a conditional use, or we need to go through this and have this study done for something very small?
Yeah. So we thought about that, Ed, and that's why it's for conditional uses for principal uses. So if you in your home want to have a home occupation So you want to open a barber shop in your basement. That's a conditional use. You do not have to go through this.
Okay.
Because it's an accessory use.
But
Same
Mark,
if
that's not,
someone
home
wanted to-
occupation isn't called out anyway. Besides the
Right.
fact, that it's not
Right,
principal use. Yeah,
Exactly. So that, and if it was daycare, sorry, better example, if there was a daycare facility, you can have a daycare in your home, and that's conditional use, but it's not the principal use.
Okay. That was really my only concern, making someone go through an expensive process for something like that. So no, I'm good then. I have no other comments. Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Yes.
No,
Oh,
Mark Levy.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ernie. You know, this is just a kind of picky thing. On the section D, what's 2D, just that I would change the pipeline on the track to say within or on or within, just because these pipes are technically not on the track. They're in it. They're buried.
What line is that?
where was that?
That's second line of D.
Oh, it says transmission pipeline on the track.
I just think if someone wanted to, play games or wherever they could technically, but it's not, it's.
In addition to
Um,
submitting a pipeline study in cases where there's hazardous liquid pipeline or natural transmission pipeline on the track to be developed.
On or within?
I'd say on or
On or
within, yeah.
within. Okay.
And then the only
That's
other question I have
Okay.
in that section, is do we need anything to address if there is any comment that comes back or opposition, from the pipeline, operator? I mean, we've addressed really well, what happens if they don't, comment, but do we need to address anything, or is that taken care of just by virtue of it becomes part of the presentation of the package?
So you're
I
saying,
would think it becomes part of the package. We say down here, it says the applicant will submit to the township all comments received from the operator. I think it'll be part of the whole package with regard to approving it. That's how I read it. Does that satisfy you, Mark?
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that we've covered, so in case there is some opposition or something that everything is there. But I'm fine. I think everybody did a great job, and thanks, Kristen.
Okay.
can
Mike?
you just tell me what the edit you want? What page is that on? I wasn't following you.
section 2, section D.
Section 2. D.
There was
second
two
page.
two comments. The first sentence where it says, in addition to submitting pipeline study
Yep.
in cases where the hazardous liquid
Yeah.
pipeline is on or within the track. We just have on.
Oh.
And then the other comment was the last sentence, the second to last sentence, where the applicant shall submit to township all comments received. The question was whether that becomes part of the package.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted, you could add another sentence that, the applicant shall address to the satisfaction of the township, the operator's concerns, something like that, if you wanted to.
I think the way I read this, I would think this would have come to us as part of the package.
Yeah,
I'm
and that's
okay
gonna
with
be
that.
part of your review that you'll,
Right.
obviously, if there's something the operator's asking for, you're gonna push for that, and
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Mike?
fine. I'm fine.
Okay, Mark. Mike?
I had two quick things. One's a comment, one's a question. The comment on page 2, in the bullet items, there are 2 letter Ps. See, that's just a clerical thing we needed to correct. There's one.
yeah, I
for-
think I fixed that on my end, because mine has a P and a Q, but we'll double check that.
We will mind our
LMNOPQ.
P's and Q's.
That one I missed. Sorry.
So I didn't want Marty to come after us for not minding our P's and Q's.
No worries.
Okay.
And
Second one, Mike?
I had a question as well. I remember last month, we talked about this in some detail, that the engineer that does this study inherently needs to be fluent in pipelines. It can't just be, you know, a structural engineer, for example, can't do this. And that's, you know, page 1 says a pipeline awareness study prepared by and sealed by a professional engineer, et cetera, et cetera. But if you jump to page 3, section B2, it then says applicant's design engineer. And maybe this is semantics, maybe I'm splitting hairs, but to me that implies that the design engineer who prepared the site plans, for example, should be doing this. And that engineer per se may not be fluent in the pipelines and therefore may not be the person to do the actual study. And I think it's
Maybe
just the
it
word
should-
design
it
that's
should
throwing me
probably
off.
It should probably just say applicant's engineer.
Yep. We'll remove that.
All right, it's a good pickup. Okay,
All right.
that's it, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have one question on the first page where it says pipeline awareness study and consultation. And Christian, I'll leave this question to you. Is that consultation? Is that the right word, or should that be like review? Is consultation the right word?
Well, consultation is to cover what paragraph D requires.
Okay,
So that's, it's sort of two different concepts within one section of the ordinance. One is the preparation of the pipeline awareness study, and the second is the consultation that's required. So
Okay,
maybe it should be pipeline awareness study, semicolon, consultation, rather than and. I don't know.
okay.
Where is this?
On the
title.
first page.
The title of the new
On the
section.
title.
I mean, yeah, because we could even just get rid of the consultation if you want to just call it pipeline awareness study. It just, D is sort of a sort of a different concept of them doing a study. It's more them consulting with the operator.
I would suggest we just put the study and not make it a confusion.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me open up for public comment. I think I have one hand up, and I believe, is that you, Christine, I think?
Yes, that is me. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted to have a little discussion about the 660 feet distance that's mentioned in the document.
You're gonna have to speak up, Christine.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
That's better.
Okay. I just wanted to have a little discussion about the number, the 660 foot distance for the consultation zone that's referenced in the document. Ernie, I sent an email to you about that. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or to share it with the group.
Yes, I've read it. It's been shared with the Mark and his group.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the point that I wanted to bring up was that I think that the PHMSA guideline is maybe not being applied correctly here, because the wording under applicability in the document, it is using the center line of the pipeline as a measuring point, but it's saying that transmission pipelines located within 660 feet of the proposed land development. And if you look at the language from the PHMSA guideline, it says that for accuracy, that you're supposed to look at the pipeline itself and use site-specific information, such as the size of the pipeline, the diameter, the materials, the pressure, and then using that, you do a calculation to come up with what should be the consultation zone distance. And it could range from 660 feet to 1,000, or in some instances, it says a distance greater or less might be warranted. But in order to find out what that number is, you have to do a calculation. And only when you're in a position that you don't have this information, then you should revert back to using the 660 foot number. So I think that to continue putting 660 throughout this document is not correct. Because we do have information about the pipeline. We do know what their diameter is. We do know what the pressure is. We do know what the materials is. So I think that we either switch out the information and the language in there and say site-specific information will be calculated based on the pipeline that's in question for that tract, or something has to be done to arrive at an accurate number.
Okay. Anybody want to comment on that?
Hey, Ernie, this is just my thoughts on that. I think that's a fair point. However, you know, if the document is going to be referring back and to the 660 feet and using that as kind of a baseline, because of the number of pipelines that are running through the township, if we start adjusting that 660 feet for every single pipeline, that gets to be very confusing and convoluted. And again, I'm thinking of probably more the residential. I think having the flat number makes it a little more manageable. And then the township's also not responsible for, you know, making sure we know exactly what's running through those pipes and what the pressure is and what the material is. Because let's be honest, Sunoco can change things, right? And then every time they change the material or the pressure, then we have to go through and update everything. I think it just...
And you're never going to know. We're never going to know what the only specific data that we have available to is what's available to the general public. We don't have information on pipe age, pressures, distance between valve stations or pump stations. So we could use either 660 or 1000.
Yep.
So so that's where we are. We know Sunoco because someone told us at one point, but that could be different today or tomorrow, like Ed, like you said.
Okay.
Well,
Someone else has raised their hand. Someone else has raised their hand. Who's 945? Who is this?
Yeah, can you hear me? Judy DeFonso here.
Yes, Judy.
What's your address, Judy, for the record, please?
I'm at 462 Gateswood Drive.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the 2020 Emergency Response Guidebook, which would be what our first responders have on their vehicles as a reference as to evacuation in the event of a pipeline emergency. Both the methane and the natural gas, which is kind of, you know, the ones that we really worry about because of the potential for flammability and explosions and the like. The recommended evacuation in the event of a large spill is 800 feet. So I'm thinking that 800 feet would probably be a better baseline because that would be who would be affected in the event of an emergency. Those are the people we would want to have the awareness that they are most likely to be affected by an incident.
Right. You realize that this is an awareness ordinance. This doesn't preclude development within the 660 feet of a pipeline. So
right. So I'm thinking the people who are most likely to be evacuated in the event of emergency should be the people who have the awareness.
Okay. So the way I've looked at that comment and also the one Christine, and you know, I think when the engineer puts together the assessment, if it comes out to be that he finds out it's a different pipeline, then we may have to provide some more guidance or what have you. But I think at this point, we've heard enough on On the distances, I think we've got a reasonable thing here in this ordinance with the feet. I mean, it could be 660 now, it could be 800. I've heard 1,000. I've seen the probability risk assessments that's been provided, and it's a combination of consequence versus the probability, and the distance is actually one factor of a few inputs. I don't think we're here to cover all the inputs to those risk factors. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, again, this is published by PHMSA, which, is national, international standards for this sort of hazard mitigation.
Okay, thank you.
The consultation zone distance recognized by Chester County is 1,000 feet by the Chester County Planning Commission.
I also have a minor question. One of the M says shopping center. I'm just curious if that also would include a standalone store like the CVS on the corner of Paley Pike and Boot Road, because something like that should be included.
It would not. It's not a shopping center.
But wouldn't you want them to have this sort of awareness?
If it requires conditional use, like CVS is in a residential district. So it's site specific. So it's hard to tell if, but primarily it would be in a commercial use in a commercial district, may or may not be a conditional use.
Well, it's also, that would be
It will be a
covered.
land development.
Yeah, it'd be land development. So if a new CVS is being built, they're required to do a land development plan and it'd be captured
Yep.
under paragraph 1.
Yep.
Okay, just so long as they're part of the program.
Yep.
They would be.
Thank you, Judy. Okay. Any other comments?
Ernie, this is Marty. Two things. One, I think you guys all ought to be congratulated for this is a tough challenge that you had, and you did it pretty well. The other thing is, before it comes to us, it should go to the Pipeline Task Force for their review and comments. Are you going to take on that responsibility, get their comments and see what they look like, or what? How are you going to do that?
I'm going to move this on to the Board of Supervisors, Marty, if it's approved by the commission. And if the board wants the pipeline committee to look at it, we've sent them the draft. They've had a chance to look at it. Christine's on the call. We've provided it to them. All the information we provided to them. If it comes to the Board of Supervisors and you want to get their comment on it, you're more than welcome to do that.
That's okay, but remember, you guys are the experts, not us.
No, I understand that.
I'm just asking a question. I'm not demanding anything. I'm just saying
No.
it's sooner or later it's going to get to them.
Okay.
Christina's been here probably every meeting there has been on this. She's one of many, one of several, I should say. And question, I don't know. I'm just saying it seems more appropriate to have them review it and provide any comments or questions to you guys as opposed to us. I think it would be easier said that when it comes to us, that it's been reviewed and commented on by the Pipeline Task Force in addition to you guys, obviously.
Okay.
That's up.
Well,
it's up to you guys. I'm not demanding in one way or the other. Just want to.
Okay.
It's a comment that I think it would be better that way, but that's up to you guys.
Okay. Well, let's see if it gets through our board first and see how it goes. Does somebody want to make a motion?
That takes care of that.
Okay.
I'll be happy to make it, Ernie.
Go ahead, Dan.
And then my mute button wasn't there going. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend the Board of Supervisors adopt the Pipeline Awareness Study Ordinance Amendment as prepared by the staff and the Township Solicitor.
Second.
Wait, can I ask, are you gonna ask that the amendments that you spoke about tonight be made to it?
Correct. I amend my draft motion to include a statement with the amendments as reviewed at tonight's Planning Commission meeting.
That would be the
I got a bunch of them.
So it'll be the two places where it says track. It would be the one place where it says on or within.
Yep.
only-
Capitalizing pipeline awareness study, changing the
Yep.
title to get rid of consultation, making sure there's not 2-letter Ps, getting rid of the word design before engineer. I think I got them too.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. And I had a second.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay, it's passed. We're going to send this off to the Board of Supervisors for their consideration. I appreciate the time and effort that was put forth with this. And we can forward this on, and if the board wants to go through the pipeline task force committee, they're more than welcome to send it there first before they vote on it.
Yeah, we could, we
Okay.
have the option. I will say, Ernie, we have the option to send it back to you too.
Yes, I know. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Kristen.
Thanks, Kristen.
Have a good night.
Yep. Okay. Next on the topic is old business. New business. Any other matters, Mark?
No.
Okay. Now, I have one announcement.
Yeah, and that was just the other night, so that one's already passed. So,
Okay. By the way, that business pipeline, the business park task force seems to be getting off on a pretty good foot, so I appreciate the help it's getting.
Any
Yeah,
any feedback from the planning commission members on that? How that went?
Yeah, so we had a really good meeting Monday. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I apologize. John is the vice chair. We had some presentations by Mr. O'Leary and Mrs. McKinnon, I believe was her name.
Mary Frances McGarity from
McGarity.
Chester County Economic Development Council.
Thank you. That provided some great background. We have a sort of a draft questionnaire that we're going to be providing to the businesses in the area. However, I think we're waiting to make some changes to that based on information from Mrs. McGarity. I guess they had sent out some similar questionnaires, so we're going to try and cherry pick off of them. We really want to make sure that we have our questions that are where the answers can be kind of measurable, right? So we don't want to ask a question and get 30 different types of answers. We want to make sure that what we have can be recorded and you know, we can provide a metrics for the answers so that we can respond accordingly. And I really think, and Mark, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was where we left off, is that our next step is to have that questionnaire formalized and then start providing it to the business, the tenants and the owners.
Yes.
Thank you. Marty, I'm sorry, I forgot. Liaison report, did you have anything?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, great. Okay. How about a motion to close the meeting?
Sorry, and I just now added Mike. I just now saw that he was
Okay.
in. Sorry about that, Mike.
Maybe Mike would want to make the motion.
Yeah,
Mike,
I figured you guys forgot about me, but I thought I'd, stay a little longer.
you want to make a motion to adjourn? You've been here for 30
I would
seconds.
love to.
I'm sorry about that. I look up at the screen. I'm like, oh, shoot, he's in the waiting room. Oh, man.
I was only there like 10 minutes, so I didn't know how much I'd catch or whatever. Like that game didn't start. It was supposed to start at 6:15, started at 6:30, but you won.
Hey, Mark,
Good.
Mark,
You won? Good.
Ernie, before we leave it, Mark, anything on the coming up in the works here?
So I can tell you that the M&T Bank next door is going to sale, and we may see something on that, but if it goes the way they want, it's a use by right, so you may not see it. So that's going to be reused and readapted. So more to come on that, but nothing else this time.
Okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Ruth, you got everything? Mark, thank you for your time, and Kristen, thank you. I
Yeah.
was gone. Okay.